At this time, then, I would like to give you Mr. Jake Towne, our moderator and independent candidate for the 15th Congressional District. Jake?
Thank you, Mike, and thanks a lot for having me here today. I guess one of the first things I should say is my district is down in the Allentown, Bethlehem, Easton area, so actually not all that close, which might be why I'm the moderator, kind of bring in the out-of-town guy to get yelled at when the candidates aren't on time. So what I'd like to do is, I'm not going to speak for very long, and to give as much time to the candidates, there won't be a Q&A session just for myself, but I'd like to share with you guys actually an idea that I have. And one of the things that comes from our founders is that our founders clearly recognize that all power stems from the people, not from themselves, from us, and that all officers of government are not masters, but they should be public servants. And the idea that I come up with is something, it's novel, but yet it's very simple. It's called the open office. And as a representative in the United States Congress, the way it'll work is when I'm elected, when anyone goes to house.gov, there will be a web page for each House floor bill. Residents will be able to comment for or against if they wish, leave their opinion in the space below. At the top of the page, there'll be a phone tally. So when people call into the office, it won't just be going into a black hole the way it does so often these days. And that'll basically deliver transparency. For accountability, what I'll do is every month there will be a monthly report issued. My background is actually as a chemical engineer. I have not ever run for public office before. And the way it'll work is, and I guess I should also add, the last 4 years I was working abroad in Shanghai, China. And while I was there, my boss was actually here in the United States. So what I did was I wrote him a report every month and told him what I was doing. So again, what I'll do for the residents of my district is give them a report that has every single House floor vote, every single bill that I co-sponsor, and every bill that I introduce, and state, how I voted, but also, and far more importantly, a lot of times, also why I voted. And if they dissent, they'll be able to comment below. Because if we are to live in a free and open society, we should not just tolerate dissent, we must in fact encourage it. The second thing I like to talk about is, just very briefly, is that America these days is on a very hazardous course, especially economically. Currently, we have the Democrats are piloting the Titanic at present, but we must always remember that it was the big government Republicans who really nearly doubled the government from 2000 to 2008, and they are not blameless. And these days, it's not rocket science. The path to prosperity and liberty is actually quite simple. All we need to do is return to what America does best. First, America needs to restore the individual liberties guaranteed under the rule of law per the Constitution. We must all understand that the Constitution was written under the principle of positive grant. And what positive grant means is that the government can only exercise the powers which are specifically granted to it and nothing more. The Constitution is not the authority over your life. It is simply the law meant to constrain the actions of government. Now, again, I'm an internist, so when you have problems, what I do is take a very problem-solving approach to it. First, you contain the problem, then you figure out the root cause, and then you take corrective actions. These days, to contain the problem of too much spending and too much taxation, you just say, okay, no more new taxes, no more new taxation, no new spending. And for taxes, what I mean is, this current health care bill that was passed is a tax. It's a nearly $1 trillion tax, and it needs to be eliminated and repealed. The cap and trade energy tax, that also needs to be repealed and removed. And also, in terms of one of the taxes that no one ever talks about, and you don't hear a lot about from politicians, is something called the inflation tax. The inflation tax is a hidden and insidious tax that is created by money printing of the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve, for those that aren't aware, every dollar bill says Federal Reserve on it. The Federal Reserve is a quasi-private banking cartel that is also the money printing arm of Congress. And it controls the supply of money and credit to our nation. While the American people were told that Congress passed an $800 billion banker bailout, the truth is that the Fed spent over $2 trillion in off-the-balance sheet transactions as shown by the lawsuit from Bloomberg Financial. Neither Congress nor the President have any idea how these funds have been spent. And that is why we must audit the Federal Reserve, which has never been audited since its founding, a full audit since 1913. And our country has not even performed a true audit of our nation's gold reserves since the Eisenhower administration. Today's dollar is unbacked by anything. What I actually have with me is a gold and silver coin. And one of the funny things is about gold is our money was backed by gold up until 1933. The coin that I have here is a 1964 half dollar that was 90% silver. So it wasn't all that long ago that our money was sound. But when I say sound money and how to fix the problems of what we currently have, what we need to do is obviously have balanced budgets with a sound currency. And the two reasons of this are, number one, for entrepreneurs and firms to provide a unit of account to be able to do profit and loss. And second, which is the more pressing problem at the current point in time, is to impose a fiscal discipline upon government. To contain the problem, again, you just stop the new spending, you stop the current and the taxation. Now, also on current spending, is to remove all the new stimulus plans, the one that they passed a year ago that didn't work, or any expansion of federal program of any kind should be halted immediately. Our economic mess is due to the excessive spending and the doubling of the size of government over the past decade. And again, we cannot cure the problems of excessive spending by yet more spending. It just defies logic. Just in the same way that printing money, we cannot, as a nation, we cannot print our way with a printing press to prosperity. And again, we should remember three key words. Government has nothing. There is no way, it is not possible for the government to give charity to someone without plundering it first from somebody else. So how can voters believe that a candidate will represent them by tightening the purse strings on wasteful federal spending if they fail to start with themselves? And that is why I will not be taking the congressional salary of $174,000. That's before benefits. Neither will I take the pension plan. There's a pension plan that gives current folks in Congress up to 80% of their pay for the rest of their lives. And they are also given an elite congressional health care plan, a plan that they themselves, they just voted on the health care plan, and they themselves aren't even subject to it. In terms of the salary, I'll be taking the median household income for my district, and the rest of the salary will actually go to local nonprofit hospitals in my district. And again, back to cutting spending and taxes, we need to remove all wasteful departments like the $100 billion Federal Department of Education. We already have 50 state departments of education, and we don't need any more. And then we must also keep in mind that in terms of, we must also cut military expenditures. We spend over $1 trillion on our military, which is more than the rest of the world combined. Yet, we do not have a strong national defense of our borders. We have not avoided undeclared and unconstitutional wars. We have over 750 military bases on the foreign soil of 150 of the world's 194 countries, which includes 10,000 troops in Italy and 55,000 troops in Germany, while we continue expensive nation-building missions and patrolling the borders of foreign lands. We must support our troops by returning them home from Iraq and Afghanistan as quickly as possible. The suicide terrorists that caused 9/11 will best be pursued by small groups seeking bounties under constitutional letters of marque and reprisal, not by conventional armies. An expensive strategy that has wasted hundreds of billions of dollars and has not worked for much of a decade. So in closing, I'll introduce the next speaker. Remember, don't let D.C. control your wallet, your life, or your freedom. It is with pleasure that I will introduce our first speaker. He is currently in the Pennsylvania House of Representatives. Sam Rohr is a Republican nominee for governor. He is a champion of states' rights. And without further ado, please welcome Sam Rohr.